I miss seeing you in person and fellowshipping with you over a meal. So much has happened over the past 12 months. Just in the way we're meeting here tonight reinforces how our world has changed since we last met. Zooming this meeting feels so unnatural. I am longing for the day we can gather again. And I want to take this moment to thank Betsy Warner, our new Director of Community Relations, and Bill Lee, our Facilities and IT Manager, who pulled everything together to make it possible for us to meet. So this evening, I want to weave for you a vibrant tapestry of our community of donors and volunteers and how we have all partnered to not only persevere, but to thrive. Thrive in an environment of constant change and uncertainty, ensuring Rowan Helping Ministries is here every day, putting God's love into action. Rowan Helping Ministries continues to take a holistic approach, helping our neighbors in crisis. This year started out normal, if we can recall what that was. Halfway through the fiscal year, we began to hear about a tiny little thing, 400 times smaller than the thickest of human hair. But by the end of the third quarter, this tiny thing had burst into our daily lives and changed everything. Everything changed. And we never stopped helping the homeless, preventing homelessness, feeding the hungry, and protecting our clients, guests, volunteers, and staff. In just a few words, our days became all about protocols, partnerships, and perseverance, and most importantly, how we succeeded. Back in March, we were somewhat prepared. We were already operating under flu season protocols. Quickly, though, we realized flu season supplies were inadequate. The recommended guidelines from the CDC and our partners at the health department came in rapidly and for a while changed daily. Donations of reusable masks, hand sanitizer, and no-touch thermometers were provided by our community members and partners. Taking care of our employees was of utmost importance. We ordered extra thermometers for our employees to take home so they could understand their baseline temperatures and not come to work sick. A few staff were able to work from home, and for the others, we provided personal protection equipment and premium pay. Our team worked swiftly, implementing new protocols so that we can continue to meet community needs. Our staff immediately began to reimagine our procedures and streamline our services to meet the most critical needs for food and shelter. Using the CDC's website and health department guidelines, we created our COVID-19 protocols for staff, guests, and volunteers. And I want to pause here for a moment and just celebrate. We have not had any positive cases among our employees or guests. We count this a blessing. We remain vigilant and thankful that our guests, volunteers, and staff have willingly followed safety protocols. Board member Kyle Mitchell built a mobile plexiglass shield so that we could move our front desk for food pantry services outside. Crisis assistance interviews immediately transitioned to phone interviews and online applications. We closed the clothing center and shifted Jeannie's Kitchen to take out to the general public, reducing the dining room occupancy from 120 to 22, with guests eating in shifts. All this happened in only a few days. In an amazing outpouring of support, over 75 volunteers came and packed 2,400 food for thought bags in just hours, so that as children were leaving school for what we thought was going to be 2 weeks, they would receive double the amount of food. But through this initial uncertainty and fear, our staff persevered. I am proud of our team and the heart and dedication I see every day as they continue to serve our neighbors in need. Now, creating a safe and healthy shelter in a pandemic required many changes for a space designed to serve 90 individuals and 4 families, primarily in a congregate setting. With support from Emergency Management Services in Rowan County, we moved families to a motel and converted their rooms into isolation rooms for anyone experiencing coronavirus symptoms. Additionally, the county rented motel rooms just in case homeless individuals tested positive for COVID-19. This would provide a safe place for them to quarantine away from other homeless individuals. In our shelter, we implemented physical distancing protocols, spacing out beds, and expanding day spaces into the new Tomorrow's classroom and dining room. We offered television, games, and snacks so that our guests could shelter in place comfortably. Our focus was remaining what we call a well shelter and having a contingency plan with Catawba College for sheltering well individuals if the virus caught hold in our shelter. Remaining a well shelter led to new rules for entrance. And at a time when other shelters in our region were closing their doors to newly homeless, we established safe pathways into our shelter. With the front desk of the Ralph W. Kettner Center moved outside and crisis interviews conducted by phone, we repurposed our Crisis Assistance Center into a transitional shelter. Testing was not readily available, and the only way to ensure a safe shelter required 14 days of observation. This shelter provided 24 hours a day, shelter in place, ensuring guests would enter our main facility symptom-free. EMS donated cots, we hired 8 more employees, and temporarily converted our lobby, day showers, and 7 interview rooms into this transitional observation shelter. We're grateful to Cardinal Innovations for funding a large part of this effort. Now, after about 6 weeks, we received a call from Cabarrus Rowan Community Health Centers letting us know not only did they now have rapid testing, but would plan to provide testing on our campus, allowing us to phase out this transitional shelter model. The 4 family rooms in the Robertson Standback Center are now sufficient to serve as both isolation rooms and transitional rooms for guests waiting on test results. Each new day has brought new challenges. Although the governor issued a moratorium on utility shutoffs and rent evictions, we quickly learned citizens residing in motels, living paycheck to paycheck, did not have this housing protection. A quick phone call to Dr. Virgil Lattimore at Hood Theological Seminary paved the way for us to rent 10 rooms to house these situationally homeless families. And as if by divine appointment, just as we secured these rooms, we learned that the motel housing our families refused to renew their contract with the county. So these 10 rooms at Hood quickly filled. What began as a 3-month plan for housing situationally homeless families, Hood Seminary has graciously extended through the end of the year. The United Way's COVID-19 funds and FEMA CARES have helped us pay for this added expense. Each new model of sheltering the homeless required its own set of safety protocols and standard practices. I want to commend Sherry Smith, our Director of Client Services, for not only writing all the standard practices, but personally conducting outreach and overseeing the pathways into our shelter services. With each new model, we also had to develop a plan for providing 3 meals a day. Jeannie's Kitchen provided breakfast, lunch, and dinner in shifts, accommodating proper distancing for guests residing in the Robertson Standback Center, and to-go meals for guests housed at the Ralph W. Kettner Center Transitional Observation Shelter. And through a partnership with the Forum, we tapped into one of their suppliers, UpFresh, to order fresh, healthy, microwavable meals for the families sheltered at Hood Seminary. I want to thank board member Matt Marsh for allowing us access to his cooler at the Forum to facilitate this meal plan. In all these efforts to help the homeless, we never lost sight of our goal to educate, empower, and help the homeless become permanently and stably housed. During this pandemic, we helped 49 of our guests obtain permanent housing. And for the first 8 months of our fiscal year before the pandemic, we assisted 54 guests in obtaining permanent housing. We celebrate each of these successes. Now, I want to tell you about Deshauna Sapp. In September 2018, Deshauna came with her 4 daughters to Rowan Helping Ministries because they could no longer afford their rent. Because of her family's special circumstances, they qualified for our permanent supportive housing program. Deshauna, who was working a full-time job, was struggling to make ends meet. She had many hopes and dreams for her family. She had initiative and determination. All she needed was a chance. Through her life coach and in partnership with Operation Hope, a nonprofit organization focused on raising a person's credit score, Deshauna went to work on her home ownership and savings plan. Disappointed, she was only able to save $7 during the first month. However, that was $7 saved, and it started the ball rolling. By March of this year, Deshauna had saved $500, which we matched from our Breaking Free program. Through Operation Hope, she was able to raise her credit score and access resources to buy a home. On April 21st, Deshauna and her family realized their dream. They moved into their new home with over $1,000 in the bank for emergencies. Deshauna's success gives us hope and encouragement during these chaotic times. Now, the permanent supportive house she vacated is reserved as a quarantine house, just in case it's needed to provide homeless individuals a safe place where they can recuperate from COVID-19. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Sherry Smith has coordinated our efforts to reach out to homeless and find pathways to services and shelter. We ramped up our outreach efforts, increasing our day shower times and partnering with Cabarrus Rowan Community Health Centers, the Health Department, and the Salisbury Police Department to place porta-johns and hand wash facilities in a parking lot near the police department. We have made several outreach visits when we've been contacted about homeless individuals on the streets. And at daybreak last Thursday morning, along with the member of the Salisbury Police, Sherry and staff interviewed folks sleeping in downtown Salisbury to connect them to resources and our shelter. Rowan Helping Ministries works to meet people where they are, and having programs that help feed insecure families is a key function of our ministries. This is delivered through 3 programs and through multiple sites. In total, our programs provided over 1.5 million pounds of food for our community. I am thankful to our recent new hire, Christina Wiles, our food operations manager, who provides the leadership and coordinates our partnerships for Food for Thought, Jeannie's Kitchen, and our food pantries. Feeding the hungry during a pandemic proved challenging as the supply chain was disrupted and volunteers dwindled. Again, God always provides. We experienced an outpouring of community support. The community responded in amazing ways to support our food programs. From a food drive competition between the Salisbury Police Department and the Sheriff's Office, to Food Line providing a refrigerated trailer, which Atlantic Petroleum graciously helps us refuel every few days, to the Salisbury Rowan Runners Club picking up 44 vacant volunteer slots in Jeannie's Kitchen, along with many other acts of kindness. We have been awed with the outpouring of love from our community. I've already mentioned the amazing support for Food for Thought on day 1 as our state moved to shelter in place. What followed is unprecedented. Food for Thought not only provided more than 1,000 bags each week delivered on the bus route the remainder of the school year, we reimagined the program and can continue to provide 950 bags each week as part of the school system's summer meals program. This past school year, volunteers packed 41,600 bags of weekend food to feed more than 1,200 students. In our pantries, A few dedicated volunteers pre-pack items and provide no-contact curbside pickup. USDA family food bags, along with added donated food pantry items, provided over 150 pounds of food each month for our food insecure clients. Now, with the extra support provided by the government, some of our clients, for the first time, had the funds they needed to purchase food. However, 483 families, for the first time, and because of the pandemic, were needing our food assistance. Each challenge was met with a solution. We are incredibly grateful to Meals on Wheels of Rowan County, who stepped up early and continue to provide delivery service from our pantry to elderly and immunocompromised clients. In looking at our county statistics, 16.8% of the population live below the poverty line. Based on these statistics, Rowan Helping Ministries is providing food to almost 50% of our neighbors who live in poverty. Fortunately, we are not the only agency doing this good work. The pandemic brought hunger relief agencies closer together, creating stronger partnerships as we respond together. We are grateful for the growing partnerships with Meals on Wheels of Rowan County, Bread Riot, Lefty Senior Center, Main Street Marketplace, Salvation Army, the Department of Social Services, Second Harvest, USDA, and the Health Department. We continue to develop best practices, and this crisis, in a way, has helped us improve our delivery of services by forcing us to rethink and retool for safety, effectiveness, and efficiency. Prior to the moratoriums on evictions and utility shutoffs, each day about 20 families experiencing financial crisis came to our office and met with a volunteer for an in-person interview in order to receive our assistance to stay in their homes and keep the lights on. For the most part, during the moratoriums, the needs we saw were for emergency medication and first month's rental assistance for our shelter guests who were able to find permanent housing. We have been able to manage these needs through phone interviews and newly developed online applications. This lull has allowed us to retool for what lies ahead as the moratoriums on disconnections and evictions end. As I look to the coming year, this is what concerns me most. Is there a tsunami of debt coming? And how are we to be prepared? We have been in regular communications with the City of Salisbury and Duke Energy, partnering with them to help their customers. We have talked with our clerk of courts and sent letters to landlords trying to get a handle on evictions. We are no longer looking to bridge a gap of a month or so behind, but 6 months or more, and no certainty that a neighbor who is impacted by COVID-19 related job loss will be able to recover from the losses they sustain. We are gearing up to help our neighbors weather this storm. Kyle mentioned that we have been awarded 2 large grants to help families stay in their homes and to rehouse families who are homeless. We are also writing grants and seeking donations to help our neighbors. It is not just funding we need. We have created a safe way to volunteer, and I am happy to report we have many volunteers who are eager to return. As is always true for how Rowan Helping Ministries helps, it is through cooperative community action. It takes us all working together, lifting up our neighbors, each doing what we can. And the most important thing we need is prayers.